Hello everyone, and let's talk about New World, which is a new MMO, which is coming later this month from Amazon. Yes, Amazon Games. It is technically the first full release from Amazon Games. I think their last game, did it not go into early access, then went into beta, and then had to go back into early? Did it release and then go back into early access? I think it did that. But it was a complete kind of flop. I don't even remember what it was called, but yeah, so this is technically the second game from Amazon Games. It is going to be a buy to play MMO. Remember them? I thought that was such a 2014 thing. So we haven't really seen that much of a high profile buy to play MMO for quite a while. 2014 was like the last hurrah of that. After that, we mostly have had like live service games, or the live service games that we've had have been different. You know, they've been kind of games like The Division, Destiny, Marvel's Avengers, Anthem. None of them really success. Destiny maybe is the only one that's really been successful. Anthem was a flop. The Division was okay. It got a sequel. But yeah, Marvel's Avengers has been quite a flop as well. But yeah, so it's kind of mixed success. So we're going back to a more traditional style of MMO. It is again a big, massive, open, shared world by the looks of things. Now it is a sort of target and shoot MMO as opposed to a tab targeting MMO, and I think this is problematic. And the reason it's problematic is to do a really successful sort of targeted MMO, you need a decent frame rate, and I've played the open beta, so this may change for retail, but yeah, the frame rate just isn't great. I was playing at 1440p on an RTX 3080 Ti. I had everything, I think, maxed out at very high settings. But yeah, it really struggled in terms of frame rate. See, the thing about a tab targeting MMO is you can get away with a lower frame rate because, you know, you're always going to have your target and you're just kind of pressing buttons to hit that target. Whereas this plays more like a third-person shooter. In fact, it plays exactly like a third-person shooter if you're using like I tried a few ranged weapons. Like I tried the bow, I tried the musket, and I tried the fire staff, and I was never comfortable with any of them. And being that the frame rate was kind of all over the place, really, that was the biggest problem with it. If you go into towns, there was one like major town in the game that I went into, and the frame rate was in the 20s, and that just isn't acceptable, especially you move the mouse to look around, so it feels really bad. It just feels horrible trying to move around. It really does. Again, we could argue it is beta, but it is open beta, and the game is coming out at the end of the month. So I don't think they're going to radically optimize it. And again, I was on a 3080 Ti with a Ryzen 7 3700X, so not exactly, it's not the highest end of systems, but not the lowest end either. Should be able to run on this, and bear in mind that most successful PC games that are popular, and certainly an MMO needs a popular player base to sustain itself. Again, if you look at most of them, what they have in common is they're quite easy to run, and they're quite easy to run at high frame rates. If you look at competitive games, even just PvP, again, PvP apparently is going to be a big part of this game, but if you look at most PvP games like Dota 2, League of Legends, Valorant, CSGO, World of Warcraft, what do they all have in common? They can all be run on modest systems, and even on high-end systems, they run at really high frame rates. So I do worry about this game as a PvP game because I really didn't like playing it with the ranged weapons, just because there was a lot of stuttering and a lot of just frame rate drops. At times, yeah, it was like 24 FPS was the 1% low, so frame rate in the 20s. It averaged around, I think it averaged around 75 FPS. I don't think that's acceptable, to be honest. I mean, I've been playing Final Fantasy 14, and it's, you know, if you, apart from a major town, it dips into the 50s in a major town. If you go to Limsa Lominsa or Gridania, it will dip into the 50s. Now, New World was dipping into the 20s, which is just not acceptable. And again, Final Fantasy XIV is a tab target MMO, so they can kind of get away with that in a town. That's almost acceptable dipping into the 50s. Most of the time, it runs at 144 FPS because that's what I've capped it at. And most of the time, it'll stay like that. Even in dungeons against bosses, even in raids as well, it'll stay in the hundreds. Drops a little bit, but it'll stay in the hundreds. Again, with lots of players and lots of effects going on. One of the things I found that dropped the frame rate whenever you went out of town to do a quest, like a hunter quest, you could drop a campfire, and again, so that you could have a reset point in case you died, or you could do crafting for like healing materials, or craft arrows because you have to craft your own ammo in New World. But one of the problems with this is that everybody's campfire can be seen, and it really tanked the performance. It'd be nice to have the option to only see your own campfire. Now, you can use anyone else's campfire and set it as your own in that, but why is there like, 20 or 30 campfires strewn around the place that the game's having to render? And this is an area where you're doing combat, because you kind of drop the campfire and then go and do the combat, and you usually have to kill 5 wolves or something like that is the quest that you get, and it just tanks the performance, and it's not good to have performance like, again, in a manual target MMO. So I think that is going to be a big thing that holds it back for me. Some of the good things, the game is a good looking game. It is very good looking. It does come at a cost of frame rate. I would prefer a higher frame rate, but it looks good. I like the way the world is very physical. Like, in most MMOs, you kind of walk through things. But this world is very physical. Although there is an issue with your character can't walk downstairs properly. Basically, in real life, if you're walking downstairs, like, you'd have fell down, but it's like the animation of you falling down isn't there, so you just kind of skip to the bottom of the stairs, or you skip a bunch of stairs. That was a bit of a weird animation bug I found, but it is nice to see your character actually walk upstairs as opposed to just walking uphill, which is what most MMOs do. And you do collide with like objects on the ground, especially objects that you can pick up for crafting material. That's kind of good, and your character will step over rocks and things like that, and you can also vault up onto things, and that's quite good to see, that your character's sort of physically grounded in the world. Most MMOs don't do that. Most MMOs, objects are just kind of floating there in the world, so I think that's a good thing. And again, the crafting system is pretty good. You got like gathering materials. You have to pick up all the different types of things to gather. You get like a scythe that can be used to cut down, like, you cut through like bushes and things to get wood, and you get an axe to cut down trees, and you get like a thing to smash, a sledgehammer to smash boulders with, again, to get rocks. And you can use all of them. Again, you can make, you have to make your own ammunition in the game as well. You get ammo for the bow and for the musket, at least. You've got a mana bar for the fire thing. But I found that the best combat was actually using a sword and shield. I actually preferred that method. I did spread my kind of talent points around. I spread them around a little bit because it was the beta and it's not going to continue. But I'd probably recommend not doing that because you're going to be struggling with, because I wanted to try, you're going to be struggling with different weapon types, I think. And you want to be trying out different weapon types in the beta. Again, I didn't really like the ranged weapons. I just didn't like them there. But yeah, I think it's an interesting world as well. I did pay much attention to the story because, again, it's open beta. But yeah, the world looks good. It looks good. It's just a pity that it doesn't run right. And hopefully, you kind of hope it will be successful. It is going to be a PC game exclusively for now. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if it does make its way to consoles. It will need heavy optimization, though, before it makes its way to consoles. That's a good thing about a PC-only release, is they don't have to bother with optimization. If you look at other MMOs like Elder Scrolls Online and Final Fantasy XIV, again, they're on consoles. Elder Scrolls is on Xbox and PlayStation, and Final Fantasy is only on PlayStation. And again, it had to be released on the PlayStation 3. So, although they've shut down the PS3 version since then, since it launched on PS3. But yeah, so I mean, again, console optimization is a good thing because it does help the PC version out. Because if it runs well on a console with, you know, the restricted sort of limited hardware, it should run better on PC. Because if Final Fantasy 14, if the basic A Realm Reborn part of the game, that was designed to run on PS3, so it runs really well on PCs. If you've got a decent, you know, mid-range PC, should run really well on that PC, and that's a good thing. Again, some of the textures aren't great, but again, that's just a result of being optimized to run on a PS3 when it first came out. The later expansions weren't available for PS3 as they closed it off, so it went to PS4. There is now a PS5 version as well of Final Fantasy 14. So I wouldn't surprise me, I think, if New World doesn't come to consoles, because releasing on one platform in this day and age, it isn't great for a game's success. I mean, you just decrease the player pool. And that's a good thing for the player base. Whether it'll be a shared world with the PC, I don't know. Whether it'll be like Final Fantasy 14, which is, you know, the PlayStation and the PC version, they share the same players. So it is cross-play there. I think it probably will be, certainly, but it comes out, what, September 28th? So not long now till it comes out. Won't be buying New World at launch because I now have a policy of not buying MMOs at launch. I'll probably buy it maybe a month after it comes out, maybe late October, early November. I'll buy New World because, yeah, you just get a load of problems with New World. Although I didn't really run into any server issues, any connection issues. The server lag was reporting is about around 150 milliseconds for Europe, which is a bit too high, although I never really noticed it in game. It's just the way it was reporting, so I don't know if that was a mistake with the way it was reporting it. So I never really noticed massive lag in game in the open beta, but I will, you know, I will steer clear of the launch window. I think that's just good advice for any live service game, is to steer clear of it. I've been burned already this year by Outriders. That was terrible. That was just a terrible experience overall, getting connected to it. So I would always steer clear of these games. But yeah, I liked the world. It was interesting. I saw like some of the world events. It was too low level to take advantage of that. Because again, I didn't have that much time to play it because I was kind of busy doing overtime, really. I just bought an Xbox Series X, so now I've got to pay for it. Got to work overtime. Paid retail for it though, so I didn't pay the scalper price. I didn't really have a huge amount of time at the weekend to play it in the open beta weekend. There ended on, I think it ended on the, what was it, the 13th of September or the 12th of September. It ended the open beta weekend. It's funny because you were getting prompts for events that took place the day after it ended, which was a bit weird in an open beta. I get what they're trying to do there. They're just testing it out. But yeah, I probably will check out New World. Although Final Fantasy XIV's Endwalker expansion is coming out in November, and SWTOR's expansion, Legacy of the Sith, not Mysteries of the Sith. I still keep calling it Mysteries of the Sith. That's coming out in December, so I might check it out in October, really, before they come out, because I'm definitely going to check those things out. But yeah, it's interesting click and target MMO, or not a click and target, an aim and target, point and target MMO. But yeah, I'm generally not a fan of these. I do prefer the tab targeting MMOs. But we'll see how well it runs at launch. Didn't get to try a healing staff because none of them dropped, so I don't know what the healing's like. Apparently you can do targeted healing in the game though, so didn't get the chance to play a healer. But anyway, that is all for this video, so thank you for joining me, and I'll see you again soon, and goodbye.